Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business News Afternoon Report for Monday, the 3rd of February 2025. I'm Sean Aylmer. Every afternoon, we've got the 5 stories that happened today that you need to know about. Story number 1, the S&P ASX 200 fell by nearly 2% today to finish at 8,379 points. Australia was the first major economy to trade after the tariff announcement over the weekend from Donald Trump. Basically, he's put 25% tariffs on Mexican goods, on Canadian goods, except for oil and energy, and an extra 10% on Chinese goods. Now, there are fears that a global trade war will hit economic growth and cause inflation, and that hurts earnings. All 11 of the ASX's sub-indices fell today. There was little escaping, with consumer discretionary, healthcare, financials, materials, real estate and industrials all falling around 2%. Only 10% of the top 200 were higher today. Worst among the large caps: National Australia Bank, Fortescue Metals Group, Aristocrat Leisure, Rio Tinto, WiseTech Global, REA, QBE, Pro Medicus. The list goes on. Shout out to Telstra, though. It's the only top 40 stock that didn't lose ground today. A couple of big movers. Healthcare group Fisher & Paykel was down 7.5% after it came out and said the tariffs would increase its costs because it's got factories in Mexico. And retailer Cettire was down 18%. It sources goods in Mexico, in Canada, in China, the trifecta. So some sales for that retailer are problematic. Its share price fell. Story number 2, the government is hopeful that Australia's trade surplus with the US will prevent the Trump administration from imposing tariffs on local goods. Foreign Minister Penny Wong said the surplus puts Australia in a strong position to navigate changing global markets. She said Donald Trump wants to do things differently and Australia has to navigate the new world confidently and with our eyes open. Australia and the United States has a free trade agreement. That means very few tariffs, in fact, no tariffs on almost everything, about 97% of things. We sell to the US financial services, gold, sheep and goat meat, vaccines. We buy from the US financial services and travel, computers, IT services, cars, trucks, that type of stuff. About 12,000 Australian companies sell into the US. Some of the big ones include Woodside, Westfield, Brambles, Atlassian, Worley, Visa and Rio Tinto. How they emerge from this global trade war is anyone's guess, but Penny Wong is hoping that Australians won't be hit too hard. Story number 3, senior ABC figures, including then-chair Ida Buttrose, discussed removing a journalist from her casual radio slot after flagging that they were sick of getting complaints about her anti-Israeli views. The ABC hired Antoinette Lattouf to fill a 5-day time slot on the morning show on ABC Radio Sydney in December 2023. She lasted 3 days before being let go after a large number of complaints were sent to the ABC regarding past comments she had made about the conflict in Gaza. Lattouf has sued the ABC in the federal court over her dismissal. Her barrister, Osher Fagia, told a hearing today that Buttrose, then ABC Managing Director David Anderson, and Chief Content Officer Chris Oliver-Taylor discussed how to get rid of her after a concerted campaign from a pro-Israel lobbying group. Anderson said Lattouf should take a managed exit at the end of the 5-day shift, agreeing with Oliver Taylor's opinion there'd be a phenomenal blowback if she was fired. Lattouf was dismissed that same day after reposting, without comment, an Instagram post from Human Rights Watch about starvation in Gaza being used by the Israeli government as a tool of war. Story number 4, building approval and retail trade figures were out today. We know the government wants to build 240,000 homes a year for the next 5 years. Well, we have a long way to go. We're running at about a 138,000 a year pace. The good news, I suppose, is that's 4% higher than a year ago. Building approvals have certainly trended higher. Now, slower inflation has helped the sector, but demand is still outstripping supply. Apartments are relatively low in the total number of building approvals. Apartments obviously house a lot of people in a small space. Completion times of new buildings is still behind the pre-pandemic pace. The lack of supply remains a problem for the government. It's also a good argument why house prices won't fall much, if at all. On the retail sales side, December figures were better than expected. Solid turnover late last year, basically. And story number 5, the US has told Panama that the Central American nation must reduce Chinese influence over the Panama Canal or face potential retaliation from the Trump administration. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio, in his first foreign trip as America's top diplomat, spoke to Panamanian President Jose Raul Molino. After the meeting, Mr. Molino said Rubio had not threatened to retake the Panama Canal or use of force. Mr. Rubio told Mr. Molino that the American president had made a preliminary determination that China's presence in the canal area violates a treaty that led to the US turning the waterway over to Panama in 1999. That's it for the Afternoon Report for Monday, the 3rd of February, 2025. Make sure you hit follow on the podcast. We'll be back tomorrow morning with the Tuesday edition of the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your evening.